an opportunity does not mean that that is the opportunity for you. Mm-hmm. You know, you've got to interview and make sure that that organization aligns with your values.
That makes sense.
You know, because if it's not a good match, then you need to find the job that is a good match to you. Now, I would say this, again, let your dreams be bigger than your fears. Don't not apply because you feel intimidated, or you look at their website and say, well, it's no women of color, it's no minorities in any of these roles. I don't think I should apply there because that's not the organization for me. Because the diversity is not transparent does not mean that the organization is not making strides to ensure that diversity, equity, and inclusion is at the top of their strategy as it relates to opportunities. So you've got to really research the organization. You may find things that you cannot find, but it is perfectly fine to ask about the diversity in leadership when you're interviewing. I am in my space, I've led executive recruitment, and if I spoke with a minority candidate and they want to know, does anybody look like me? I've got to be transparent, because a person needs to know if they're going to relocate for a job, they bringing their family here, they need to know that no one else is going to look like you.
That makes sense.
But we are prepared to welcome your skill set, your experience, and what you bring to the table to help us get to the next level. So definitely there's opportunity always for improvement there.
Now, I want to backtrack a little bit. Tell us how you climbed that corporate ladder to leadership. What was your process like?
You know what? I'm gonna be real. The younger generation is I guess in their terms are clutch right now, because they are going after what they want to do. If they want to be business owners, they are doing it. They're not afraid. So when I look at my career, I can't say that I entered the field and just said, oh, I got this platform and this is what I want to do. So I think it's very important to know that also I started out as a single mom. And even in school, I was told that I would never graduate because the statistics showed that single mothers would not complete school. I think what I entered into my spirit is that, okay, that's my challenge. If you say I can't, I will become. So I remember when that happened, I was a student in Nashville Tech, and I thought I wanted to be an occupational therapist. And I did my clinicals at Vanderbilt Stallworth Rehabilitation Center. Mm-hmm. And oh my God, so I'm a big advocate for job shadowing. Because at that point, when I did my clinicals, I was like, oh no, this is not what I want to do. And it was more driven because my daughter, my oldest daughter, special needs, I went through this process with her, and I was like, what's what I want to be? But then when I really did it, it was not what I wanted to do. So I had all of my hours in cosmetology when I graduated high school, but I had bills to pay, and it wasn't clutch like it is now. Like, you getting your hair done if you're not doing anything else. So back then, it was like, if I don't have money, I'm not getting my hair done. So I was like, okay, this is not going to pay the bills. I can do this as a side hustle. So I decided to go back to school. I had oftentimes, my path was not a direct path because I had to drop out of school because of my daughter's condition. I had to drop out of school and focus on her health. And, you know, I learned that a delay was not a denial, because oftentimes when...
Wait, can I stop you right there? Let's say that again. Say that again for the people in the back. A delay is not a denial. Say that again.
Yes, a delay is not a denial. And you need to know that when you're striving and you're working towards something and you pray about it and you ask God, then doors will open. So I'm working at an organization and I'm like, oh my God, I'm never going to get a promotion because I don't have my degree. When I tell you I got a promotion because I was pursuing my degree. Okay. So that's the difference in sometimes when that job description might say you have to have something, but you're working towards it and somebody sees that in you and they open a door. That's God.
Nothing but God.
So I got into, and I'll tell the organization, I was at Cigna Healthcare for 10 and a half years. That's where I started my degree. I entered Cigna as a customer service representative, and I had an amazing mentor by the name of Beverly Red, who is from Jamaica. And she was an awesome mentor. I was always told, you dress for the position you want, not the position that you have.
Yes, we oftentimes hear that, and she's a living testimony to what that looks like.
So I just let people pour into me. So I started out in customer service. Then I applied for a correspondent position there. It was a position where you had to learn to write at a third grade level, and you were replying in writing to cases that were being appealed through the Medicare system. Then I applied to be an administrative assistant in the anti-fraud department, and that is the department where I actually met Beverly Red. She gave me the opportunity. At that time, Cigna was decentralized with their recruiting, and recruitment did not fall under the umbrella of human resources. And so I was given the opportunity to write and implement the recruiting and selection process for the anti-fraud department. When Cigna decided to pilot talent going under the umbrella of human resources, I was granted the opportunity to apply for the job, apply for a recruiter position. I was told I didn't have enough experience, so I took that recruiting assistant position. So sometimes in order to take a step forward, you may have to take a lateral move, and you do need to identify what money you need to make. Mm-hmm. So if you can identify that, okay, if I can take this lateral move, if I have to take a pay cut, what does that look like? So I took that recruiting assistant position. I started leading the recruitment efforts for all the customer service positions there. And then I wrote a proposal for then I was transitioned over to the corporate side. And I was the researcher that basically went out and built relationships with all organizations and colleges and programs that hired students. So I did a lot of traveling. Then I wrote a proposal for an operations manager. The proposal got accepted. I got the position, and then that started my career in full-time recruitment. Mm-hmm. And then after leaving there, I was the director of physician relations and recruitment for the little clinics that are inside Kroger stores. At that time, it was independently owned, and we were doing the recruitment for the clinics that were inside Publix and Kroger. Then after leaving there, I was the executive recruiter for DaVita Dialysis. I was their first executive recruiter for Trailblazers in Nashville. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I went to the little clinic, and then I transitioned to leading recruitment efforts at Vanderbilt University Medical Center.
So you have done a lot that led you to the leadership level that you are today. So what impact do you believe women of color bring to those leadership roles?
I think that women of color, minority people, bring a different perspective mm-hmm. to the workplace and to those leadership roles. You know, if everybody looks like you, everybody thinks like you, everybody's been raised like you, then there's not room for those true diversity conversations and to get a different perspective from somebody else's viewpoint. So when you think about being in healthcare, we bring a tremendous amount of contribution to leadership roles mm-hmm. because everyone has had different type of experiences in their life, in the workplace, and it brings a diversity platform of discussion, especially when you're in the space of healthcare.
So what are those discussions like?
So there can be various discussions as it relates to, when you're thinking about, one of the biggest things that has come recently has been changing when organizations have gone to changing the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And what does that look like for your employees? What does that look like for, the community? How does it impact? Because I think minimum wage is still like $7 or something like that. But when you think about going to, and I may be wrong on that. I have to check my data, but I know it's not $15 an hour. Mm-hmm. But as organizations have gone to that minimum wage of, bringing in people no less than $15 an hour. And, Amazon started that and everybody was looking like, okay, so customer service is customer service. And you're losing people from healthcare because of the minimum wage. And when you start to look at what can we do as an organization to help everyone succeed, and starting at that salary, that's a huge discussion. And then, I've been in meetings where, someone has said, well, but people that are on food stamps would probably, have challenges because they, if you raise the minimum wage to $15, then they may not, it's going to impact the food stamps. Okay, I'm sitting at the table and I used to get food stamps, but I would love to have had more hourly rate than my food stamps because I can't go pay a car bill or a car note off of some food stamps.
Right.
So you've got to be able to bring your truths to that table and that conversation and be okay because you've been there to help others understand that no, they don't want the food stamps. They're not worried about the food stamps being decreased. They are excited or will be excited about the minimum wage being increased because that's going to impact my livelihood because I can't pay rent with food stamps.
Right.
So I think that's the difference that you think about, the different perspectives that people bring to the table. Now, I'm not saying that people of color ain't been on food stamps. I'm not saying that people of different ethnicities have not experienced that. But what I am saying is it's a value when that discussion comes to the table and you have experienced it and you have an opportunity to say, no, we need to move this. We need to move in this direction. We don't need to anticipate what we think. And oftentimes what you got to do is, I can remember, I serve on a board and I can remember someone saying, we need to feed them. People often think that if you come from inner city, I'm from Nashville, Joe Johnston to be exact, that's where I was raised. They think that you don't eat and everybody want to give you a food box. And I had breakfast, lunch, and dinner. My home was often a home that people came to eat. My grandmother would sell fish plates, chitlin plates. My grandfather was what I would call the modern day Uber, because he was one of few that had a car, and he would take people to work and take people to their doctor's appointments, and they had to pay him for that transportation. So, it's you bring a lot. If you can bring yourself to work and all of your life's experiences and be in a leadership role to really impact people's trajectory, then you're helping everybody win because we're here to help people. And that's the way that I take my leadership role. It's not about me. It's about me helping you to accomplish your goals and maximize your full potential.
Right. And let me tell you this, what I've found, that oftentimes women of color become victims of gaslighting in the workplace when the promotion is finally secured at the executive / what you want to call maybe leadership level, that it's not always a perfect transition. Oftentimes, women of color are verbally and emotionally abused by their colleagues. This often results in lower engagement, self-doubt, and guilt of climbing the corporate ladder, which leads to, sometimes I found, because I occupy space in corporate America, that sometimes leads to that person resigning from that position. What do you think about people being where that gaslighting takes place in corporate America? Have you seen it?
Well, what I'm going to say is this. You're in a leadership role, and so it goes back to when you're recruiting somebody, right? Mm-hmm. And letting them know, being transparent about the space that they're coming into. So it is important to know that you are the only one, because when you've walked that path, you know what that looks like. And then at some point in your career, you're like, I'm good. I'm okay with not being the first or the only one. So you have those challenges. I hope that with everyone being woke to diversity, equity, and inclusion, that it is starting to decrease those type of things that are happening in the workplace. But what I can say is resignation is not the answer. Now, sometimes it is, because your mental health is everything. Right. And never put your mental health at risk for an organization, because there's no job that's worth that. But what I will say is that what I do